right, kicking things off. It's November 11th, 2019, 9:30 a.m. I'm riding up down Manhattan Avenue here, 114th Street. On my trusty city bike. Here's a 10,000-pound truck. Here's a cop up here. Hello, officer. Let's see. I don't know much to talk about today. I was reading or researching this rad bike. It's called rad bikes, and they are it's pretty cool. It's $1,200 for this e-bike. It does have like a pedal, but it also is mostly throttle controlled, and only one gear. So like, you're not really riding up a hill like this. And because it has throttle, you like can always move very quickly. You can always accelerate without having to worry about pedaling, which is kind of a drawback on the Urban Arrow, which are just purely pedal assist. So you have to be pedaling in order to engage the motor. This truck just definitely went through red lights. Fresh direct truck. Oh man. Oh boy, it is in the low 50s. I'm already a little sweaty. Yeah, I got a t-shirt and a sweater, little sweater. So this rad bike is pretty neat. I mean, $1,200 is like nothing, right? And it's pretty cool. There are all these accessories and things you can buy for it, so you can very easily equip it with a back like bench, kind of like the floating sort of a little bench that your kid or another friend could easily sit on pretty comfortably. It really does, like when you look at this thing, and I watch the reviews and stuff, it totally blurs the line between you know, like throttle moped or throttle powered like total electric bike and like a bicycle, because it does have a chain and it does have, you know, spokes and stuff. It's not like a motorcycle, but man, when you ride these electric bikes, you just realize, like, yeah, that tech was not really around like 10 years ago. But now, like, unless you're looking for a workout, you know, it's not about going fast, it's about the effort that you have to put in to ride, you know. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love biking, but like, if you don't feel like biking, you can still use like an e-bike, and these things are still incredibly, like, it's pretty incredible. You're not really riding fast with them. They all have limiters. Wow, this guy, thank you, sir. Oh, that son of a bitch, that's the Texas driver. That guy honked at us yesterday with the Texas paper license plate, whatever the heck that probably illegal, fraudulent thing is. So here's a cement truck pulling the turn. And another truck. Yeah, you're totally safe. And then you have a woman with a dog crossing the street here. As if one has nothing to do with the other. Oh, you have a walk signal, so therefore you get to go. Yeah, that Texas driver honked at me, and I had my wife and my daughter in our bucket, on our bike, our Urban Arrow, yesterday. He honked, floored it to go like 12 feet in front of us to hit a stop sign, which we then passed him. I sort of yelled something, but not really. He didn't really hear. He was on his phone. And then he floored it again to hit a red light. And yeah, those are the kinds of people that we share the streets with. And so now I'm seeing him, and that's great. Wonderful. Lovely. These trucks. So the 28th cyclist has been killed over the weekend in East Harlem. Awful, just awful story. Clearly, this driver was in the wrong. I mean, not that it even matters, but when you look at where this happened, it happened on the Willis Street Bridge, or Willis Bridge. The cyclist was coming down off the bridge, which is like which has a pedestrian and I think a bike lane, to get into 125th Street, and this truck driver, garbage truck, unclear, made an illegal left turn. Illegal because there are stop signs where he would have stopped that point to the right. This is what's so horrendous. You have a guy that just blatantly did something that you're not, like, there are signs that specific. It's not even like he went through a stop sign, although he did. That seems clear. It said he pulled a left turn U-turn, like a left U-turn to get onto the bridge. And just, there was no way the cyclist was ever going to even see that, is what I'm guessing, based on the configuration of that, the way the streets are configured and the way that where this guy drove. Happened at 2:30 in the morning. This guy was like a sort of a amateur wrestler or pro wrestler, up and coming. Just awful, really awful. More like outrage, right? Last year we had 10 cyclists that were killed. Now we're on track to triple that this year, which is outrageous. But, right, you need to pair your outrage with action. And I guess we hope, oh, sorry, this is another one of these bikes. Holy shit. Truck driver behind me. Wow. This Enterprise driver barreling right behind me here. And on top of that, news over the weekend, a couple of cyclists were hit with video. Like they literally had the license plate, they had all this stuff, and the cops don't do anything. This is also one of the like worst things, is then when you do have crashes where there's incontrovertible evidence that something happened, the cops won't even do anything about it. So apparently these different people who got hit called the cops. The cops showed up, basically barely did anything, barely showed up, like hours or days like later. They had to be badgered multiple times to like do anything, and then they ultimately barely did anything. They were like, oh, this guy hit you? Okay, failure to yield. Like, here's a ticket, which they barely even wrote. Insane. Just crazy. I'm wondering if there's some legal action that you can trigger, that we can automate, like file civil lawsuits against people for, you know, violating various rules. Like, okay, I witnessed this guy go through a red light. Okay, can I file something about that? Like, if the city won't do anything, can I do anything about that? And I read about one guy who did that in another city. Something, I'm forgetting the details, but it was something like that. And it was pretty, like, it was intense. I think it was several $1,000s, and he got the guy to like show up in court and do all this stuff, because he was able to file like a lawsuit. He was a lawyer, the guy who got hit. I think either he got hit or he got close past. I think he was passed at a close distance. That was the thing. It was on video or something. I don't know the details, but maybe Vaccaro and White can facilitate that. It's clearly the cops are not on your side. Like, they're never on your side. We have yet to encounter a scenario where you're like, cops really just like, they swooped in, they ticketed, they arrested this guy, they looked up his plate, they found that he had been speeding all the time, and you know, they checked they had reason to suspect he was speeding, so they checked whatever, and then there's now like an arrest or something because it's his 12th, you know, violation or whatever. Like, I don't think they even look up the license plates or check the people themselves. Like, half these people are unlicensed. Okay, not half, but a lot. I think a surprising number, like, literally just don't even have a license, or their like licenses expired or whatever. Anyway, beautiful day. 55, calm. Look at the water here. I don't know if you can tell, it's super calm. No wind. Just a really nice riding day today. Yeah, I'm already, it's funny, I'm like sweating, but my hands are cold. Story of my life. Yeah, so I'm looking at this rad bike, and I'm like, the reason I'm sort of in between is I'm waiting for City Bike to come back out with their electric bikes, and I want to see how that changes my behavior, particularly in the cold. You know, I want to sort of test this thing out, like, all right, what if because it's, when City Bike comes back out with it, they're going to be $2 per trip, or at least that's what they said. Hopefully they don't change that, or maybe they will, and they'll bring it down, try to encourage more rides. But best information I have right now is it's $2 per trip, per City Bike trip, if you use an electric City Bike. Okay, so that's obviously like more than nothing, but it's less than a Metro card ride, which is like $275. And you can ride like much more easily. It's much more comfortable, particularly when it's like windy or kind of cold, and you just want to get somewhere like 10 minutes faster. I mean, it definitely, when I tried the City Bike, an electric, like a year ago, I was able to get down the Greenway in like 30 minutes, all the way down to Chambers. Like way down, or I think, wait, Chambers? I don't remember, but it was far. I was pretty far, and it was pretty quick. certainly it takes like 5 or 6 minutes off my commute, and it's way less effort. So like this right now, I never tried this detour with an electric because this detour kind of came in long after the electrics were taken offline. So I've only ever done this crazy, you know, multi-hill, super steep hill right up here coming up 79th Street Rotunda ride with a regular city bike. I would love to ride it with an electric. Really get a feel for what it's like to not have to work that hard on this thing. Especially like if I'm tired and like I don't necessarily want to be riding all the time like hard, you know? So yeah, so that's where I'm waiting. I'm waiting for City Bike to have their electrics come back out. They said fall. They said September, I think, so we're way past that. I have a hunch, so I noticed a few docks, City Bike docks near me, one at a time for a couple of days, have gone offline, and then they come back online. They go offline meaning they turn gray. They have a little gray dot, a little gray pin. It basically says like coming soon, so it's as if it's like ghosted. So you know that it's been there for a while, but they will take these docks offline when they're doing maintenance or whatever. My hunch, maybe I'm totally wrong, is that they're doing some maintenance work to prepare for the electrics to come out, and that these docks will be capable of charging the electric bikes, so they won't have to deal with what I think they had to deal with before, which is physically coming out and swapping batteries, which is insane when you think about that. You know, like they physically had to come out, undo a battery, put a new battery in, and then like turn it back on. Cool. So if they are charging them, then I don't know if that's going to totally solve their problem, which is like, right, because if an e-bike is used constantly, then it simply won't, sorry. Then it simply won't charge, right? Because you have people using it all the time. But I think in conjunction with everything else, they're going to release way more bikes. Last I heard it was 4,000 bikes that are electric. So you got 4,000 electric bikes. You have them maybe charging constantly. And on top of that, at $2 a pop, you're gonna have way fewer people using it. Or when they do use it, you know, it's more of a thoughtful kind of rental a little bit. Like, you know, before it was just like people randomly using it all the time because if you could find one, you grabbed it. People tended, I think the data shows exactly what you would expect, which is the distances are much greater on City Bike when there was on the e-bikes versus regular. People can easily knock out, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9 miles on an e-bike with way less effort. So much larger distances, which are like New York City distances, become very doable, particularly in conjunction with the expansion of City Bike into the outer boroughs and like deeper into Brooklyn, into the Bronx, and all these other places that have yet to have docks or anything. You can kind of see it on the map, like where the City Bike docks end. And I think like all these things combined are really like pretty spectacular. It's a pretty, I'm very optimistic. I know I've said that. I mean, I bitch and complain a lot. That's my thing. I like complaining, but But the reality is, you know, you've got a lot of things, these major projects like in motion, that can absolutely transform the landscape, you know? So we will see. Part of me, I was joking with somebody that, you know, part of me just wants to move out, move away, move to like the Netherlands for 5 years. Oh, here's a bunch of horse shit in the bike lane. Great. Part of me wants to like move away for 5 years and come back like once the dust is settled and once a lot of these projects and things are like much further along and things are in place. You know, I mean, imagine leaving New York at a time when like 2005 or something, and then coming back now, or 2010, I guess, and coming back and be like, oh my God, everybody's on city bikes. You know, this wasn't even a thing, but now you got days where 100,000 people are riding, or 100,000 trips a day. That's incredible. You know, the kind of growth and like availability of this stuff. Let's see. Corey, there was a dumb article, obviously by the New York Post, which I love and hate. They're like, war on cars takes 6,100 parking spaces. Because, you know, drivers bought those spaces on eBay, so they own them. They are the rightful, oh, I'm just kidding, fuck them. People have no claim to anything, especially not curbside, you know, public city space. They don't pay any more taxes or anything for that. There's no residential permits. There's not even market rate, parking rates. So they get free parking. That's a subsidy. It's called a subsidy. You don't pay for that. You haven't earned it by just buying a car and sticking it on the side of the road. That doesn't make any sense. Anybody can do that. So that's how the New York Post spun it. The reality is, Jahaya is a friend of mine who's done a vast amount of data analysis of various things, and his latest project was too many cars.nyc, which is an analysis that agencies really should have done, but he did anyway. To look at how much parking there was, and he found that there were like 3 million or 4 million curbside parking spots, like less than 1/100th of a percent, you know, some tiny percent, or even have our market rate, you know, have metered parking. So almost all of this is free. When you do stuff like that, you create, this is the problem. This is why you desperately need this like aggressive anti-car changes to the city, because when you look at curbs, everybody just, if you just ask the average person, like, what do you think a curb is for? What do you think you could do with a curb? They'd be like, oh, I'd park my car there, obviously. And even for people who like don't have cars, don't drive, don't even have licenses, they'll still, like, I've seen this, I've heard this, like, they'll feel bad for drivers who like can't park near where they want to park, and like, oh, those poor drivers, like, they have to circle around for like 25 minutes. Oh, that must be awful to like circle around the block 100 times to try to find parking that's like within 10 feet of where you want to go in a city that has 70% of people, families, not owning cars, and like buildings that are giant, you know. And it's like you have this weird sympathy, or this, you're like, you feel bad for drivers when they really don't deserve any sympathy. There's nothing. Like, why do they deserve the sympathy? It's all like zero sum. It's at a loss when they are using the curbs for parking and storing their cars with no price. You get nothing. Like, you as anything other than a driver whose car is actually parked there, get zero benefit. You now have some driver from who knows where parking near you. You've just lost some space, You have all the CO2 emissions from that. You have the particulate matter, you know, all the pollution. You have one less space that you can use for, say, any service that you want. Like, oh, you don't like garbage, you know, all over your sidewalk? Well, you know what you can do? You can put it at the curb, outside. You can have bins. But that person and those people who have parking spots all value storage for cars over your, you know, the value of having like clean storage facilities for garbage, for example, or, you know, a bike corral, or having a city bike dock on the street instead of on your sidewalk. And then we complain that New York City is too crowded, but like you look around and you're like, it's not crowded at all. There's a ridiculous amount of space here. The problem, once again, is cars. You know? The problem is cars. I don't know how many times you have to say that. Like literally every problem, you're like, garbage. Garbage is an issue. You know why garbage is an issue? It's because it's parked goddamn cars, and the garbage, you know, garbage collectors have to like walk in between bumpers and grab bags of trash from the sidewalk and pass it through, you know, the windshield, or the, you know, between narrowly parked cars. Let's see if this guy stops. Is he gonna stop? Thank you. That's very nice. So yeah, so the New York Post did this whole story on this, and people just lit it up. You're like, 6,100 parking spaces are gone in 2 years. It took 2 years to remove 6,100 parking spaces at 3 million or 4 million. I don't know how it depends on how you count, right? It's in the millions though. So I chimed in and I was like, great, how do we get 10,000 parking spaces removed every single month, every month? And it got me thinking about like an OKR for community boards at the community board level, where you basically can do an analysis of a community board district and basically say like, look, here are how many parking spots there are. How do we get this number down? How do we address this? And then you provide all the key results, like very specific numbers on how you, like if you can all, first of all, I think if you can align on a goal, I think if the city were to dictate and say, look, like this is a really useful, this is a really interesting kind of concept, right? If the city basically said, look, to the community boards, all of you have to reduce parking by 10% within a year, right? So if that was the edict, or the, right, and that was, like they all had to do it, but the city's not gonna tell you how to do it. So you actually can do many different things. You can reclaim that parking in a variety of ways. You can say, for example, put city bike docks from the sidewalk onto the curb. You can put planters in. You can make garbage canisters. You could put bike corrals. There's all kinds of things. You could just simply put more green space. You could put a temporary bus, you know, bus loading thing, right? That extends out the sidewalk. Right? There's many different ways, and then the community, knowing that like you're all aligned and you're like, this is the goal, you have to do this. How you do it is really up to you. So we're not gonna ram anything down your throats, like that kind of mentality. I think the problem is like the city probably couples the city often couples like the problem and the solution, right? The objective and the solution like in one thing. So they're like, all right, we want to, I'm not sure, I mean, I'm not even sure if that's true, but maybe that's how it feels or how it comes across to these like angry community boards. They're not gonna be happy no matter what. But as we learned from this video about Amsterdam that Mark Gordon did, where basically they took it to these you know, these communities, and they were like, look, we are removing parking, that's gone, but how you use the space is up to you. So if you want to put down picnic benches, great. If you want to put up like massive, like a big garden and make it have a garden field, great. If you want to do, you know, if there's a lot of kids and you want to put up a playground like in this space, great. Like how you use the space is up to you, but whether or not we remove parking is not up to you. And I think that's like, that's this fundamental shift. And I think we can do it in New York. Like if we make this kind of like a rule, like, and we say at the community board level, this is how, let's do an evaluation. This is how many parking spots you have. We've done a count. And even go deeper than that. Like this is how many drivers you have. This is the kind of thing that I wanted to do. Really count, look at the license plates, do a real count. How many drivers are from out of town? How many have license plates all over? How many have placard abuse, you know, in their windows that are fraudulent? How many are SUVs? Because we know that SUVs contribute to death. How many are professional vehicles like taxis and things like that that are being stored on the street, you know? How many are commercial vehicles, right? Like vans and whatever, trucks and things that really belong to a company and are used for work, but really should be stored in a garage or something. Because it doesn't really benefit the local community. It certainly doesn't benefit businesses. Like this idea that like, oh, I can get long-term car storage for my business, you know? It's a subsidy, and call it a subsidy. And if you think that's important to just give free parking to like taxis, for example, fine. Then pass some rule and let them get vouchers or something. Get reimbursed for parking their cars somewhere where it costs money. But that's how it should be done, not this sloppy mess that we call, that's like curb, like management. Here's a Fresh Direct, here's the Same Start, Lehigh, Boxery, all these people, all in the bike lane. And then look who's up here. One cop, traffic, 7751. Then you got another one across the street here, 7667. And you got another one, an SUV over on the left there, right? Nobody does the goddamn thing. And I don't have the time to deal with it. So yeah, so that's my big idea. I think the mayor should set this in motion. Perhaps it's already part of Corey Johnson's plan. Perhaps it'll already be addressed in the complete streets. What's it called? Streets Master Plan, where, you know, it won't even matter. You know, he's already trying to address parking, but the thing is, it should be at the community board level or the district level, right? Because then you can really see, you could say, look, here's what we did to improve public access to public space. You know, we removed 800 parking spots and replaced them with these very valuable public goods, like I mean, yeah, there's so many ways to spin this, right? He said, look, we narrowed the crossing distance. You know, we narrowed the crossing distance, you know, by daylighting some of these stop signs, and we made it safer for you to cross. Like, the community would love that. If you said, look, there's, you know, 8,000 people who use this city bike dock every year. These people live and work here in Harlem or wherever. I'm thinking of my neighborhood. And then you said, look, to facilitate their needs and to make this just more comfortable and easier and safer, we put the dock on the curb, not in the sidewalk. And we gave pedestrians back their space, and we gave city bike riders a much safer place to dock and get bikes. Look at this mess. This is this mixing zone. What are you doing? Great. Wow. This street is backed up all the way here. What a disaster. Half these cars are private cars that should not be in here. When there's congestion pricing, they won't be. Or they will be, who knows? But they'll have to pay for it, so whatever. Oh wow, there's a lot of bikes here. All right, well, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe.